Hello, my fellow Americans. Today is the 6th of February, 2025, and this is A Quiet Rage. There's a lot I could talk about that's happened in the last week. I will simply refer you to my previous episode, which I will link at the end, talking about the problem we have with an unelected, Nazi-sympathizing, illegal immigrant who is just doing all kinds of fun things in our federal government, shutting down agencies that he doesn't have the authority to do. In other news, Senator Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, news came out yesterday that he had fallen and hurt himself to the degree that he needed to be taken away in a wheelchair. Now, out of respect for him and the many good things that he's done for this country, I should wish him good health and a speedy recovery. Moving on. It is February, which of course means it is Black History Month. And I'm going to jump right into what we should be doing to combat fascism, and in this case, racism, complacency, and a host of other things. And that is, in particular, if we're posting on Facebook, if we're sharing things about the late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we should make sure that we include photos or videos in full color. They're not difficult to find. They certainly exist. Color photography, color film was available and in use at the time. And I will link a particular video, a YouTube video that I found about one photographer who followed Dr. King at a rally, at a march, and made a point of taking color photos. It was, of course, at the time much more common to take black and white photos. They were cheaper. If you wanted to get in a newspaper, something like that, it was much easier with a black and white photo. Now, why does it matter? Well, what does black and white film, what does black and white photography elicit in you? When you see a black and white photo of something that happened in the past, in the not too recent past, years ago, it makes you feel, I'm fairly certain I can speak for everyone. When you see something, a black and white photo of an event, of a historical person, it puts that person further into history. It makes it very easy to think of Martin Luther King in the same sort of category as you would say FDR or Abraham Lincoln, a person from a bygone era, not really relevant to what's going on today. And it's therefore easy to think, well, the work is done. There's not really racism today like there was back then, except that there is. I know I myself have fallen into the trap before of thinking, well, it's 2020, whatever. Surely we don't have as much racism now as we had back then. Well, that's a stupid thing to think. I should not be thinking things like that. Nobody should be thinking things like that. Because unfortunately, we have plenty of evidence that there is just as much racism, bigotry, sexism, homophobia, and now transphobia as there ever has been. It's not gone away. And the people that marched in those civil rights marches, many of them are still alive today. Ruby Bridges, the little black girl that we see in the iconic photo walking to school with her books clasped in front of her with, I believe they were U.S. Marshals escorting her to school. Ruby Bridges is still alive. This is not ancient history. And when we see photos and video in black and white of people like Martin Luther King Jr., it's easy to push them into the bygone eras. That's ancient history, and it's not. It's really not. So I would urge you, if you share things, if you're making posters, if you're posting online, whatever it may be, I would urge you to use color pictures and color videos of the late Dr. King. I want to make this point too, that Dr. Martin Luther King is a very good example of what I talked about in a previous episode. I think it might have been my first episode, when I talked about how we should look at politicians not as taxi cabs, not as metaphorical taxi cabs that we can call up right when we need them and get in and have them take us right to our destination, exactly where we want to be. That we should think of politicians more like a city bus, that you're gonna have to go and gather with other people and wait for that bus to come, get on that bus, ride it as close to your destination as you can get. If you might get lucky, it might drop you right where you want to be. You might have to walk the last 100 yards or so. Here's what I mean. Here's why Dr. King is relevant to that conversation. Dr. King was a serial philanderer. He cheated on his wife many times. And I am not advocating, I am not excusing that behavior. If you are in a committed relationship, you should honor that committed relationship. Here's my point. If we had waited to start, the civil rights movement started, it grew before Dr. King came along. He joined it. He didn't start it. It was started in many places with many people. He was not the only one. He was not the beginning. He was not the end. He was a big part. But if we had waited for the perfect civil rights leader to come along, we would still be waiting. We should, of course, hold our heroes, hold our elected officials, hold our leaders to a higher standard. They should hold themselves to that standard as well. But what I'm saying is, if we wait for the perfect person to lead us to whatever our promised land might be, whether that's civil rights, whether that's marriage equality, whether that's voting rights, if we wait for the perfect leader, we're going to be waiting forever. We each of us have flaws. We each of us have a history. We each of us have something that could be used against us. If we wait for the perfect politician, the perfect leader, the perfect anything, we're going to be waiting for a very long time. Republicans didn't wait for the perfect guy. I mean, look, if the Access Hollywood video didn't tell you everything you needed to know about the Republican Party of now, and the fact that they couldn't care less about waiting for the perfect leader, I don't know what else to tell you. But that's my point. And I'm not saying that we should hitch our wagons to, an equally, a person equally bad in the other direction. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying, the point I'm trying to reinforce is, when a name comes up on the ballot, when somebody arises as a potential leader, we can try and snipe at them all day long until we find the perfect one. The guys on the right side of the aisle, they're not doing that. Anyway, I mentioned in my last video that there was an event, a local Democrats, Virginia Beach Democrats event that I was going to hopefully go to. There were actually two. I wasn't able to go, well, three really, if you want to get down to it. I wasn't able to go to any of them, unfortunately. There was a Saturday event that required an RSVP, and when I went to RSVP, it was already full, which is actually, I wish I could have gone. But again, that's a good sign, because if it's a full event, that means there are a lot of people energized and involved and wanting to do good things. And that was I forget what exactly, it was a grassroots volunteer event, I think it was. Monday, so that was Saturday. Monday was the monthly meeting for the Virginia Beach Democrats. I was not able to go to that because I had another, a prior engagement. But I did get an email following that meeting. My membership was voted on at that meeting, and I am now a full-fledged member of the Virginia Beach Democrats. So I can now vote on things. I have access to the private Facebook group. So I'm getting into this community, and I'm gonna feed on that energy of these other people, which, as I have mentioned before, I strongly urge you to do as well. The third was, there were protests planned for, what was it, Wednesday? Tuesday? In all 50 state capitals around the United States, for Democrats and liberals and left-leaning folks to come out and protest the fascism that is rapidly taking over our federal government. I wasn't able to do that either because I had to work, unfortunately. But I will not be deterred. There will be more events. I will continue to be involved, and I urge you to do so as well. Do a Google search for Democrats. Just Google your state and Democrats, or your county and Democrats, and get involved. Go to a meeting. For me, my local chapter, it was $30 for a year for membership. I was voted on. Now I'm a paid voting member, and I can get involved, and I can be informed. So I highly recommend you do the same. As always, I'll have links for you to look at in the comments. If there's somebody that you think needs to hear what I have to say, if there's somebody that needs a little poke, there's a couple of my friends that are going to get sent this video. Share this video, like and share and subscribe. I'm trying to build a little community of my own here. Because, as I mentioned, that community is important. It's very easy to feel like, especially in some places in the South and in the Midwest, it's very easy to feel like you are the only one in your whole city that feels the way you do. I promise you that is not the case. So, find your people, gather amongst your people, and if you feel like I do, keep your powder dry and keep that quiet rage.